Hello and welcome back to another edition of Fun Friday with an incredibly interesting guest. I'm very thrilled with this one. We've got a truly unique and eccentric person here for the show that's got a ton of personality and flavor for you. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. Please welcome the one, the only Dwan Bent-Twyford. How are you today?
I'm good, the one and only. I like that. I'm the Dwan and only.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Of course, we're doing a little swap cast here. And as we got to talk more and more, it's no secret, or it'll be very apparent, I should say, as to when we start unpacking how you've become so successful. But real briefly, just tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do.
So briefly, I've been real estate investing since the late 80s. Like 1990 would be like a hard starting point. And I actually started investing, Craig, because I was 30. I got married, I had a baby. I was suddenly single. My daughter was 8 months old. My husband took off, and like my whole world imploded. And I was like, wow, I had to figure out something. I don't want to work, and I want to like raise my daughter. And so that journey left me to find real estate investing. So I discovered it by accident. I didn't know anything about it. I wasn't an agent. I didn't have any of the stuff. I just met some people like, oh, I go buy houses, we fix them up, we sell them. And I thought, fine, fix them up, sell them. Sounds like decorating. I can do that. I have great taste. I'll be a decorator. So I really thought that my first deal for real, I thought I would be like decorating. And as it turned out, it was a rehab. And I had to go to the Home Depot and learn how to do things that I did not know how to rehab. And I made 22,000 bucks on my first deal. And I was like, I'm doing this forever. And that was it. And now my daughter's 35.
Yeah, hooked.
So forever I have been investing.
That's amazing. And was the first investment into real estate a home?
It was. Back in the day, I had decided when my husband took off, I thought, well, I just want to work for myself. I don't really care what it is. I just want to do something I can work from home because I want to raise my daughter. And like I had already planned on being like the Girl Scout mom and the field trip mom and the mom with the disco ball and like, that fun mom. And so when Jamie and I split up, I was like, well, shoot, how am I going to make that happen? And so back in the day, I know this is going to be shocking to you, we had to use these things called newspapers. And in the classified section was all the jobs and all the things. And multi-level marketing was really huge in the 80s and 90s. So a lot of the jobs, would be like, oh, meet at this hotel, and then there's a ballroom, and there's like 100 people there, and they're trying to sell you on. And so I met people there, and I started seeing some of the same people. I was like, well, what are you doing? And what are you doing? And I don't want to really have to get a job, and I want to work by myself. And so I was just asking. And then I met a couple guys. They said, oh, we fix up houses and we fix up cars. I'm like, yeah, we just buy them and fix them up myself. I thought, oh, okay. I'm like, that sounds good. So there were foreclosures. So I went door knocking, all the foreclosures, and I was in Palm Beach County, Florida. Took my baby on my hip, went door knocking, found a house. I moved in, fixed it up. The lady moved out. We split the profit, made 22 grand. And I thought, well, that was great. And it was fun. And rehabbing is good therapy if you're going through something because you're destroying things.
That's funny.
Every day I use a sledgehammer. I was like, oh, I feel a little bit better about myself every day. And now
Yeah,
they have like where you go pay to destroy stuff. It's like just rehab a house.
yeah.
And it's that great therapy and you make money. And so I wasn't even, so the funny thing is, I wasn't even looking for investing. I was just looking for anything I could work from home. And that's what fell into my lap. And then I enjoyed it. So I thought, well, I'm going to do another house. And then I am going to do another house. And then now I'm 2,000 houses later.
Yeah. Well, not just 2000 houses later, but we actually had a conversation before we got on here just pertaining to some of your robust background. So let's kind of break this down as how marketing has changed over time. So you had the
Mhm.
newspaper listings right there for jobs, for houses, this, that. And
Yeah,
then
everything.
you've kind of hacked something on courses and infomercials. And
Yep.
you did that specifically into the wholesaling world. So I want you to say, and this number, when I heard it, I almost said it, heard it once, Then I heard again and I said the number. And then you said, oh, no, 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 add a zero to that. So can you explain to me and to the
Yeah,
people on the
yeah.
infomercial world, the courses, the numbers that you've sold? Because this is a staggering figure. So can you please break this down?
It is staggering. So I had been teaching for a while, and a few people had were looking for someone to do a real estate infomercial. And I guess they had seen me speak, and they went and to like 7 different places and saw me teaching and came up and said, "Hey, listen, we would like to do an infomercial with you." And I was like, exactly what that mean? And so I learned, we're going to be selling this course and da da da. And they gave me this paperwork, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I could do that. I know a lot. I teach. I've got probably at that time only maybe 3 or 4, maybe 500 deals under my belt." So we ran the infomercial. I sold 500,000.
So it's five zero 0 0
500,000.
0 0. Yes, that's crazy.
500,000 programs. They were 3 payments of $29 each. So I don't know what that adds up to. It's a lot.
It's about
And
$90, $100 after taxes, maybe.
but 5 times 500,000 was a
Yes.
lot of money. And but as the, person that's doing the infomercial, you only get like 7% because, they get the money, they spend the ads, they do all of the stuff. But the thing is, even back then, I was able to meet a lot of the people that had taken the program, and I was able, to we did, like part of my deal was I said, "Well, I'll do that, but I wanna be able to answer people's questions directly." So we set up a monthly call. People would send in their questions basically, and I would get on the phone once a month for hours and answer questions to all the people that were buying. And I got to meet a few of those people in person, and 2 or 3 of the very first people that ever bought became millionaires. And I was like, wow, I helped create a millionaire. That's like the greatest feeling. So then I thought, you know what? I can create millionaires. I'm going to do that. I'm going to create millionaires and generational wealth, and I'm going to change people's finances because real estate did that for me. And one of my first millionaires was Jim Farabee. And he lived in, like, I think Louisville, Kentucky, or Lexington, Louisville, and worked at the Ford Motor Company in a factory. And he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do a deal." And he made 30 grand, then he made 40, then he made 30. And then his wife's like, "You need to quit that factory job. It's getting in the way of us making money."
Yeah, it
And
seems
when
the
he
fact that
passed,
we back then probably too, because how
oh,
long ago was that? That was probably double his, salary
oh,
on investments and kind of
oh,
flipping properties, right?
that's like 20 years ago, or 20, yeah, like 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, if you live in Kentucky and you have a factory job, you have benefits and insurance and retirement, you have all the stuff. And his wife's like, "No, you can't quit that job." And then after like 3 deals, she's like, "Listen, you gotta quit that factory if we need to make money." And sadly, he passed away a couple years ago. But when he died, he had $5 million cash in the bank and tons of rentals. And he knew he was gonna pass away if he had cancer, so he had called us. We became friends, we stayed friends the whole last 20 years, and we helped him just do all this stuff to, transfer this to these kids and these grandkids and da. And after about a month after he'd passed away, his daughter called me. She's like, "Did you know how much money my dad had?" I said, "I did." And she's like, "Oh my god, you changed our family. He's got $5 million." I said, "I know, the man's a rock star." But all of his kids and all his grandkids now own rentals, and now they're out of the factory mindset, and they're all in real estate from that one little investment that he made.
Incredible. And it was investment into his knowledge, into his future, and into his family. So that's truly generational wealth. And the beautiful thing about real estate, should you structure your investments and the holdings correctly, it can be passed down generation to generation at a very accretive tax clip as well. So that's one of the many benefits of real estate. And it's so interesting because I think now it's so cool to be a pioneer and to do stuff first or really early, right? So now if you go to Instagram, everyone's selling a course. People are getting bombarded left and right, wanting your attention, wanting this, wanting that. But for you to get in there early and to be, really on the cutting edge, while, I'm sure you did that before, YouTube was so present before all these other kind of mediums were available is super crucial because to get there early and cultivate a brand, to get there first, you can make so much more money. But that was probably in a time too before people became so distracted, I imagine, with all the other outlets from a media perspective.
They are. So, like, so my daughter was born in '88. So, like 1990, I'm doing my first deal. Well, Google wasn't even around till '98. So I'm a decade in doing, I'm already up to, 600, 700 deals before all this stuff was available. And now I kind of feel bad for new investors right now because there's so much noise and people can do one deal and then they write a program and you think they're an expert because they have this flashy page, but they don't know shit. They don't know anything. They can't help you. You get in trouble. There's nothing they can do. And I feel like that people have so many choices and so many people that really look like they're amazing that you really should take a minute and just research people back. If someone's only been doing deals for 2 years, how much experience do they really have? They've been doing it 10 years, they can probably genuinely help you, and look and just, try to figure it out, but I feel like, and you and I talked about this, I feel like at the end of the day, people work with other people that they like and that they feel like they can trust to help them or guide them or mentor them, and I tell everyone, you learn by mentors or mistakes, and mentors are cheaper
Yeah.
because you don't need to reinvent the wheel's there.
Well, a good mentor ideally shortens the learning curve and the time gap and gives you the knowledge to expedite your path there. So it's super
Yeah.
interesting. So how many people over the course from selling those courses and probably creating a community before, there's probably mass face groups and stuff. I'm sure you kind of created that and went down that pipe there. But how many people did you coach over the course of times as well to help them, create obviously
Oh.
what sounds like generational wealth?
Thousands, thousands and thousands and thousands. So many people. I wish I had the name of every single solitary person I've ever worked with since the beginning. Um, I don't even know. So many. But my goal always is, when someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to learn more about real estate," I just want to know, like, what's your goal? If someone's like, "Hey, I just want to do a little rental here and there," that's great. If someone's like, "Hey, I've had recently a slew of people around your age that are all engineers. Just I don't even know what the deal is right now. They're finding me. They're like, we don't like what we're doing. We're buried in college debt. Just this sounds like more fun." And so recently, I've had this whole giant group of, and they're not friends, just from all over the country. All these young engineers coming to me. I'm like, "Oh, let me help you. I'll show you the way." And so I always want to find out. Not everybody's looking for generational wealth. Some people are looking to do it part-time. Some people are looking for their retirement. A lot of people are retirement age and they realize now they can't retire the way they thought they would, and they have to work till they're 75. And, so I'm really interested in anyone, but my favorite are people that say, "Hey, I want to get married. I want to have kids. My family is not wealthy. I want to be the top of the food chain and start the line." Which is what I did and my husband did. He's from Iowa, I'm from Ohio, very blue collar upbringings, lived in the country. We're the first two people in our families to ever become millionaires. And so now we have this line that we started. And it's like someone's got to be first. And I want my kids, like I look back now, I'm like, why didn't my grandparents start something? And then I want my kids to go like my Mimi and Pappy, they started it and now we're changed forever
Yeah.
forward.
Well, I think generational wealth, if you think about that, is a generational mindset that you can instill into people to create that long term. If you kind of give people the correct information and the path, it's easier for them to replicate from basically starting from nothing. You could probably give
Yeah.
them no dollars, but if you gave them the mindset and the tools to basically be able to fish, they could create that indefinitely as well, which it seems like you're likely, giving them that. So I guess my question to you on that
Well,
thought process.
the
Yeah.
saying before you tell me the question is if you feed a man a fish, you feed him for a day. And if
Yes.
you teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. So I am a big believer in that saying. I heard it a cajillion years ago. I was like, oh, you know what? That's exactly right. I don't want to just feed you a fish. I want to teach you how.
Yes.
And
Well,
then you do it, and then that's where it starts. Someone's got to start.
exactly. And speaking of which, in that tune, when you start coaching people, obviously everyone has different wants and needs, but typically speaking, there has to be probably a couple of redundant themes and concepts that kind of come up where there's a learning gap or there's kind of a shortage, maybe limiting beliefs, what are kind of some of the typical questions and things you work through with new investors, with new clients that you kind of have to help them push through to get them on their feet?
It's funny, I have a program, my husband and I, it's called, Prospecting School, and basically, Prospecting School is teaching people scripts, how to talk to people, how to your mindset. It's all about that stuff. And there's like 31-hour calls or something. I'm like, listen, you have to listen to the whole thing before we start because I need you to be open. I need your mindset to be right. I need you to not think like, oh, I can't do that, or what if, because that's what keeps people from doing things in the first place. So I actually start off with the mindset. Because the mindset's everything. I was raised in the country and grow up out of high school, get married, have kids, work in a factory. It's like if I had done that, and when I did it, I was like, well, this is terrible. I don't want to do this. So I moved to Florida. It's free, it's open. I'm not around people telling me, stay in this box. And I was like, I can do anything down here. And here we are. So your
So
mindset's everything.
so basically mindset and scripts to get the ball rolling, to get
I
those
know
things.
that sounds so incredibly basic, but the first thing people say to me is, well, what do I say to people? What do I say to the bank? What do I say? And because people don't know what to say, that stops probably 50% of the people from doing it because they don't want to not have an answer or feel stupid or say the wrong thing. And out of all the people and all the thousands of workshops, people are like, well, I don't know what to say. It's like, really? That's your concern? Not, I might go broke. I might make a mistake. It's like, that's what you're concerned about?
Well, and it's funny, knowing what not what to say or what to say is interesting because what they're basically telling you without telling you is, I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to speak someone on the phone and sound like a moron, sound like an idiot, sound like I am not knowledgeable, right? But I'm sure you could probably have, if I've never done a cold call before, if you're talking to one of your grandchildren, if you're talking to someone who's 15 to 25 years old that's never made a sales call, right? I bet if you were there, you had an earphone in, they had an earphone in, and you're talking to a customer and you told him, he or she, exactly what there was to say, when to do it, tonality, you got them going on that, you could, without a doubt, probably help them make the transaction work, lead the customer, lead the potential client to where they needed to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it sounds basic, but if you have some scripts and in anything, if you work for an insurance company, you have scripts. If you work for what you do, you guys have scripts. Like this is what we do. And teaching people that and working with their mindset right out of the gate, it helps because we all have the family that loves us that are our naysayers. Like in the back of our mind, you're young, you're 30. You have to have people in your family or 29. I don't want to age you up. You're
No,
29.
almost gonna be 30 soon, so it's perfect.
Hey, 30 is the greatest. 30,
Also, not to mention, I'll start getting grays soon, so the capital raising career will only get easier as time
hey,
progresses and I get some grays.
I'm embracing the gray this year. I've been wearing pink hair for ever, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to embrace some of that gray. But when you help people with the mindset, that because my family was not supported. Like, no, you're going through a divorce. You need to move back to Ohio. You're raising a kid. That's irresponsible of you. And you probably have people in your life that are like, you're going to go out and be in syndication. Like, what do you know about it? You're 29 years old. And we hear those are our voices. That's what stops people from doing things. So the first thing I want to do is just change the voice in your head. And once you do that, you're like, okay, Dwan, throw some of that knowledge on me. What can I do? I'm like, you can do anything, literally anything.
Well, you hit something that's so key right there. And it's so sad, but oftentimes the biggest, naysayers or maybe haters are people that you've known the longest your whole life. And it's often family. So people say so many times, ditch your family, follow, pursue that. And sometimes people are a little bit illogical, but you're not illogical if you're willing to put the work in. And if you're so passionate about whatever the subject is, you will make it work. It's just a matter of time. So, you want to find something as well that, probably from a question to get to, well, why you want to do this? What's your why? And if your why is powerful enough and you believe enough and you just water that grass for long enough period of time, you will achieve some level of success. Obviously, some people have probably some more God-given talent than others, where they could maybe go further. But hard work over time and pounding that pavement will basically take you places. So it's so
Yeah.
fascinating to hear that. And I think another thing as well on the limiting belief subject is, we meet people and it kind of boils down to this. So many folks probably meet individuals, they go through the process of, oh well, I want to put you in a box here because that's where I am, and God forbid you kind of break through that, achieve, you level up, you get to the next set, where they don't like that. They get intimidated by other people having big thoughts. So to kind of put yourself, and this is why people join masterminds, this is why people join coaching communities and stuff, because they want to
Yeah.
be around infectious energy that's positive, that's
Yes.
lifting you to the right place.
And it's funny because we had talked about this a little bit. 35 years ago, I mean, there were no women in
Yes,
real
let's get into
estate
this. I love
investing.
this thought.
There was a million real estate agents. Almost all the agents are women, it seems like. And maybe not as much today, but back then, everybody was married and the wife was a real estate agent. Like that's kind of how it was. And so now I rehab this first house, and there are no real estate investing groups yet. This is like pre that, and I see in the paper one day there's a real estate investing group. It's going to meet in Boca Raton, Florida. Here's the address. I thought, oh, I'm going to go to that. There'll be other people there like me. I did not know there were other investors. I mean, I'm really naive. I have no exposure. There's no internet. There's like 100 people there. I was like, oh my God, look at all these people. And there was one other woman. And I was like, do women not, my first thought was, do women not do this? Because there were no women there. And I thought, well, I'm doing it and she's doing it. And these are all guys. And I thought, well, maybe this is not, I remember thinking, like, maybe this is not something I should do. It doesn't look like any women do it. And then I was like, screw that. I've already made like 75,000 bucks. I'm on fire. I'm going to change that. But I'm telling you, it took a long time to get people to take me serious.
Right. And
And I
it's funny
didn't
because
even have all the pink and purple hair. I just looked like a normal conservative, And now I'm like this. I'm like, hey, I don't even care what people think because I'm fun.
that's the beauty of FU money, is that once you get it going, you get the systems right, you're the one that they go to. You can be, maybe more I guess more eccentric, as I said before, because you have such a beautiful broad personality that it's very eccentric. So I'm sure that's all core to you, but you can get there once you have the proof of concept. So great. But when you were starting, I think you mentioned the term boys club, right? So to break through that, to get respect, I imagine it was probably a way different process now than it is back then that it is today.
It was hard. And I actually talked to the other girl that was there, and I said, we should do some deals together. There's power in numbers and we'll team up a little bit. But even back then, I remember like calling the local newspaper and saying, hey, I'm a woman, I'm rehabbing houses. You should do an article on me. And I would call newspapers, and they would come and interview me. I've got old newspaper clippings, like half-page articles in the Sun Sentinel in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Like, oh, there are these two women and they're rehabbing. And we were such a novelty that people want to write about us and interview us. And even back then, we'd go on the radio, and you had to drive to the radio station and be live with people. And like, wow, you're like two women and you're rehabbing houses. Like it was such a novelty that people interviewed us because it was so unusual.
Well, but I imagine that's also a linchpin to success to a certain extent, which is going against the grain, right? Yes, you can do fine if you're kind of in the pack, this, that, but to achieve great things, you probably have to do things that other people aren't doing. So for you to kind of be early on doing that, being proactive, kind of being a go-getter, I imagine attracted a really great crowd and following because you became so niche. Being the only one of something has its cons, obviously, but the pros are also outsized as well.
Yeah, it is. And that's why I think in the beginning, like the infomercial people, they were looking for somebody in real estate to put on like, the next like Carlton Sheets kind of a thing, but later than that. And there was a few different infomercials on late night with different people here and there. I'm like, no, we're looking for a woman, and we've been going to conferences for a year. And when we met you, we were like, this woman is on fire. And these people had followed me. I didn't know they were gone to 5 or 6 places. They'd seen me speaking, and Then they approached me one night and I was like, seriously, you're just gonna put me on TV, just right there. And they're like, yeah, you've got the personality, you're different, you're changing the thought patterns of people. There aren't a lot of women that do this, and you're dynamic and all the things that they say to you. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that'd be fun. Let's do that. So just through that, and then a publishing company is like, "Hey, would you write a book?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll write a book." So my first book was called Short Sale Pre-Foreclosure Investing, and I think I wrote it in like 8 or 9, and it was a bestseller. And then they said, "Hey, will you write another book?" And this one's called How to Sell Your House When It's Worth Less Than the Mortgage. So it was a book for homeowners in trouble, like how to help the homeowners. And then my most recent book is I wrote a book with Steve Forbes called Successonomics. And I was just like, Steve Forbes, are you serious? I'll do that. And, one thing just unfolds into the next thing. But and I was an anomaly then, but I still feel like I'm an anomaly now because now I'm older, I'm wiser, I'm still helping and teaching. Now we're rehabbing a town. It's like not many people wake up and go, "Hey, honey, we should buy a town." Like
Yes. So let's talk about
a
that. So
big
this is,
thing.
yeah, this is the probably one of the more crazy things that have been said on this platform before, which is you and it sounds like your husband
Yeah.
bought a town in Iowa that you are rehabbing and going through. So I have so many questions, but the floor is yours. Have at it. Don't spare detail because I am genuinely piqued from an interest perspective.
So the way it started, so we're from the Midwest, so every year all of our high schools have, a 5-year, 10-year, all the reunions. So we started coming to Clinton, Iowa, like right before we've been married 20 years. So right before we got married, and they had this reunion, and then there was in some little bar, like so there's this downtown. So let's just start at downtown. So here's the Mississippi River, there's Illinois, here's Iowa. It's 3 blocks wide and 3 blocks deep. So it's this big. And the meeting was at this little bar, and I remember driving around and Bill showing me, like, this is where I went to school. You know how you do when you take someone to your hometown. And I was like, this little downtown is so cute, but it's like half of it's boarded up. And there's a few places. There's a store, like a restaurant. It's like 10 things. Then we go back the next 5 years, and I was like, the downtown is like, it's just sitting there, like time forgot it. And so we go back again. So now we've been back 3 times. So this is 15 years. And the last time I said, this downtown is starting to grow a little. It needs some love. Why don't we find out if they're doing some kind of a rejuvenation or rebeautification or, bring back the downtown kind of a thing. So we went over to the building administrator. It's like, oh, yeah, there's this little group called the Downtown Partnership Alliance. And here's the girl that runs it. And we called Karen and we're like, hey, what's happening? And we want to invest some money in what's happening in the town. So we find out first it's an opportunity zone. So for folks that don't know what that means, if you own it for 10 years, you don't have to pay any capital gains on it. So whatever you buy it for, you keep it 10 years, free money. And they have all kinds of grants, like for roofs and window outside things, all kinds of
Basically,
grant money.
CapEx has been so there's two tailwinds for this. You've got the capital gains, delayance, if you will, if you hold it for 10 years. So basically, all that profit is almost free. And then you've also got government subsidies on some of the CapEx projects. Projects. Am
Yeah,
I hearing
so
that
there's
correct?
all kinds of money. And I was like, what do you have grants for? And she's like, we have them for roofs and windows and fascias. And, you see the big buildings that have like murals on them, like a big giant mural is like 50 grand. They've got grants for all this kind of stuff. So, so Bill and I are a little over the top. So we said, you know what? Let's buy a building. We'll buy one building, and it's the main corner right here. It's the main, when you turn, it's the first building. Now, this building is listed for $185,000, but we happen to know the people that own it because they're friends with someone that was friends with my husband's dad. They've already moved to Arizona, and we buy the building for $32,000, and it's got 20,000 square feet. I'm like, okay, it's 35,000. We'll just say 35, and it's 20,000 square feet, and it used to be a J.C. Penney's. That's a nice building. Like, okay, we'll fix it up. Well, then that woman told another woman. So then Carol calls. She says, hey, I heard you bought Peggy's building. I have 3 buildings. My husband's been dead for a decade. I want to move to Florida. My buildings are sitting there boarded up. Would you buy those? And we were like, oh, you'd have to owner finance them. There's really no other way. You have to owner finance 100%. She says, okay. So she says, just like that, I'll do it. Well, then she tells another lady, and this woman calls and says, hey, I've got 2 buildings and they're over on this block. And we're like, oh, you'd have to owner finance them. We just wouldn't be able to pay cash. The buildings need too much work. They've been boarded up. We don't really know what we're getting into. So throughout that, every single building is owner financed by the people that owned it. So we didn't have to come up with any money to buy any of the buildings, which is
Amazing.
insane. And that's why we ended up with so many. So
Right.
actually what happened is, just real quick. So the taxes that we pay go into a separate account for just for the downtown. So now we're like big thinkers. We're 20, we're like 15 buildings in, and they have a meeting once a month of what are we going to do with the tax money? What are we going to do to bring people downtown? So we want to do like Christmas in July. We want to have like an Oktoberfest. We want to have all these things. And we keep getting voted out. People are like, no, we did that 10 years ago and it didn't work. And I said, well, what about like an Oktoberfest? Oh, we did that 7 years ago and it didn't work. So after a whole year, and I played nice for a whole year, and all of our ideas got shot down. And I was like, listen, how many do we need to own to control the vote? That's what I need to know. So they're like, well, you need 28 parcels. Like, okay, we're going to go find 28 more parcels downtown. And then the next time we vote, we're going to say, okay, here's what we're doing. So
Yeah.
that's how we ended up with 28
By the
because
majority. I love it.
it's like I mean, we had good ideas, and there's a Hallmark store right downtown. Well, Hallmark makes billions of dollars on Christmas in July and at the holidays, and every movie is a fall fest, a summer fest, something, 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 and nobody would do anything. So we're just like, you know what? We're just, how much do we need to own to control the vote? And then we got some more parcels, and now we're like, okay, now we're good. We're done buying stuff. Now we can have some say so in what's happening. And so now we're just puttering on and working on our buildings.
Amazing. So how long would
It,
the process take on this front? How long is this project going to be? I guess what's like the whole, start to end kind of process look like for you?
so we slated it to be a 5-year project. So some of the buildings were in good shape. So actually, 3 of the buildings were really beautiful already. So I put an antique mall in one. I opened a business. It's like I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm in small town America. I opened a coffee shop and I opened a clothing boutique and I opened an antique store. That's like,
Fair enough.
it's like real estate. It's real estate. It's you got an antique mall this big. Everyone gets a 10 by 10 space. They pay rent, and and we have a cashier to take care of the store. So it's like same thing as having apartments, just, and then same thing with the clothing, like everybody just rents a space, brings in their clothes. I was like, yeah, we can do that. Why not? So in the process, I now own 3 little small businesses in this little town and a storage unit and some commercial. And one of the buildings has commercial downstairs, residential, and it was full. So that building, all the tenants are still there. They came with the building. And so we're just like, we'll just get in it. We'll see what happens. It'll be fun. And we're kind of restoring things back to like their former glory.
Right. That's awesome. So you mentioned as well somewhere in there the short sale process too. So next story. And you have a certain, I think, trademark or patent on that. So I would love for you
I
to
do.
also deep dive that.
I do. And I do have one building here. There was one building here that was 375,000 and it was in foreclosure. And I short sold it for $75,000. And we
Nice little
paid cash.
game.
So we did pay cash for that one, because it's like 75 grand, the bank's gonna take it from 3 whatever, we'll take that. So I short sold one, and we just paid cash for that one. So short sales basically is, uh, a homeowner or even a building owner, a commercial building, like really anything is for sale or in foreclosure basically. And like this building, it was 375. It was in foreclosure. It was like a month away from the sale date. And I contacted the guy that owns it, John, and he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna let it go. I don't know what to do. Nobody wants to buy it. It's, it needs a lot of work. I don't just call the bank. So I called the bank and just did a short sale. And all you do is get the bank to take less than what's owed as the full amount. So the bank agreed to take $75,000 and they gave us like 30 days to close. We're like, done. Bought it, closed it. He moved out. We got a $375,000 billing for 75,000 bucks. We did a short sale. So I started doing those in the 90s, kind of by accident. And they weren't even called short sales yet. They were still calling it discounting, shorting the note, discounting the mortgage. Like there was 4 or 5 terms kind of flying around. And I called one of the girls from the banks one time. I'm like, well, what do you guys actually like call this? She goes, well, it's not really an exact name. We're just calling it discounting. And I was like, and short sales and stuff. I was like, short sales. I said, I'm going to check into that because, I'm learning about business. And I call, I say, hey, I want to get a registered trademark on short sales. They're like, oh, you can't get that because it's in stocks and it's in other industries. Well, we can give you a supplemental trademark, which means it applies to real estate. It's like, I'll take that. So I've had that registered trademark for like 25 years now.
That's amazing.
I'm
So
the
and
queen of
that's
short sales. I
so
invented
that
short sales.
so that's has the R next to it. I think you said as
It's got
well
the R.
that the
Yeah, it's
small
the
little
R.
one like on the top right corner. I want to say if you see anything, correct?
Yeah, like anything Coke and it's got like the little R. So
Yeah,
you get the R, but it's called a supplemental trademark because the short sales are used in other industries. So you can't take the whole name forever because it's like in the stock, people short stocks. So they call it a supplemental, but it's still the R and you still get to use it, but as it applies to real estate. So I can use it as it applies to real estate. I can't claim short sales as it applies to like the stock market. So I was just like, I'll take that. So I have that.
absolutely.
I'm telling you, I'm insane. As I learned more, I was like, I'm like a sponge. I just absorbed, I learned, I wrote books, I started training. Now we're doing this town and all the process, the whole way. It's been so much fun. And then now I'm really focused on like you're young, you're coming up. It's like I would love to send people to you and help you have like this amazing career. And I'm all about helping, other speakers, trainers, real estate investors, all the things. But I'm really uh, Bill and I both really want to help create generational wealth. That's our big goal because nobody in our family did that for us.
So do you have a blueprint for that you kind of basically teach step by step as to how to kind of create that, pass it down, and keep, the knowledge and the wealth, pass from generation to generation? Like how do you kind of sort that out? How do you kind of systematize it so it's, can be taught at a mass level?
Honestly, it's more like just kind of a person at a time. I mean, you just have to do trust, living trust. You just have to use all the documents that are available and put everything into a living trust or a land trust or a family trust. You just have to get everything lined up so everything just goes to the next person without probate and taxes and. But then also, each family is different. Like if you leave everything to your grandkids, that doesn't mean they're going to keep doing it. They might sell everything and just go, we're going to go live in Europe on Mimi and Pappy's money. Woo. And they're out of it. So you just have to use a person that knows what they're doing and just get things lined up in trust where things just keep getting passed down. And like, don't let anybody we're selling everything that everybody else worked for.
Right.
It's like all the super wealthy, the Rockefellers and the JP Morgans and all the people, they just and like even like Hilton's, like for their hotels, they just pass things down. And if you don't teach like the grandkids, for example, teach them about it, then most people's wealth is less than 2 generations. Your kids appreciate it, your grandkids blow it. So you got
Yeah.
to think past that.
Yeah.
And so like basically if our grandkids want to sell everything, just like we're selling everything, we're going to live off the land, it's all going to go to charity. So if you want to keep it, you're going to have to work it. And if you don't want to work it, you don't get any of it.
I love that. That's really cool. And that basically gives an incentive to grow it, to nurture it, and to keep it there because it's use it or lose it, or build it, enjoy it, take care of it, or lose it. So that's honestly a really good stipulation there to make sure that the mindset is there to kind of move it forward in perpetuity. So with all that said, you have such a deep and rich knowledge, and thank you so much for being here. What would you say do you have an outlook on pertaining to kind of the home side and your expertise? Because there's obviously some economic turbulence coming on. You've seen several market cycles as a 35-year long investor, almost four
Yeah.
decades worth of it there. Do you have any kind of insights as to what you think may come up here as the market is shifting in real time?
Well, right now we're in an election year. So always in an election year, there's always some war, some crisis, something. Now you got Trump and Biden fighting like crazy people and wars all over the place. So if people just pay attention to like every 4 years, there's going to be something because one person is trying to get elected and and change whatever. So in any election, and this is like a big one because you got everybody in the world's fighting over these two people. So things like that cause the inflation and all everything that's happening right now. So I think that people first need to, if they're going to get into investing, especially like long term, like with your syndications and things, people have to just look at like not what's the next 2 years look like, but what's the next 10 year. Like opportunity zones have a 10-year limit for a reason because it's a cheap place that needs to be brought back, but you got to have it for 10 years to get the benefit of it. They don't just say, oh, opportunity zone, keep it for a year and sell it because that's not an opportunity zone. So if you follow some guidelines on things like that, like why are those in place for 10 years? Why do you have to own it for 10 years? Because they know it's going to take 10 years to recycle this area and people need to come in and commit to the long term. So I think that people need to kind of think ahead, like you're 29, what do you want to be doing when you're 39? Do you want to still be doing syndication? Do you not want to do it? Is it not where your heart's at? If your heart's not in it, do something else now.
I
Like,
love that.
don't wait. Just do something different now if you don't like it. I started when I was 30. I love it. I'm 65. I'm still doing it. My grandkids are in it. My kids are in it. Everyone's in it. We've got cousins and nieces and nephews, and everybody's in it. And it's like, if you don't want to be in it, that's fine, but I'm not giving you any of it.
Yeah, I love that. So, final question I like to ask everyone, which is a hot take, something that's contrarian, something that's core to you. You said you had a good one. You didn't tell me yet, so I'm looking forward to hearing it right now.
I don't even know if it's that hot of a take, but I have found having, decades of experience that you really have to be, honestly, you have to really be true to yourself. I let everyone control me and how I should look as a speaker. I should be conservative. I should be this and this. I should fit inside of this box. And I don't fit in that box. And I didn't enjoy some of the things I did because everybody else told me how I need to be. And when I was like, I started being like, you know what? I'm going to just be who I am. And people don't like it, then they don't need to work with me. I don't need to fit to work with them. They can find somebody else. There's 1,000 people out there, work with somebody else. So, and so somewhere in my 30s, I was like, they keep putting me in this box. I need to have conservative hair. I need to wear a suit. I need this. I need that. And it's like, but I hate all of those things. And so I feel like that most of us are kind of taught to be people pleasers in our life. We say, yeah, we're just kind of bred that way. And I feel like people don't really enjoy truly what themselves and what they want until they reach a point where they truly don't care. So I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but it took me till I was like 45 years old to be able to say, no, this is who I am. This is who I want to be. This is how I want to dress. This is what I want to say. This is what I want to teach. Everybody else can just get lost. This is me. And from that point on, everything in your life is better. Everything works. The pieces fall into place. You find yourself surrounded with people that you didn't think you might be surrounded by. And so when you hear people say, "Oh, be true to yourself," but really, it's harder to do than you think. It's
I
really
agree.
hard. It's hard. It's like you're so cute, you're conservative, you got that. If you showed up with like long hair and a beard, they might be like, "Oh, I don't know if he's good for the brand." So you know what? Just be your own brand.
Yeah.
Be your own brand.
Well, I
Be you
think
brand.
you're ahead of the time in that regard because now I think it's great to do that. But basically, you're creating your own tribe and niche by being true to yourself and doing what is your calling. And obviously, you being who you are is unique in nature. And the world has a ton of clones, but the world does not have a bunch of originality. So I think you bring that flavor and spice to the world.
So I think be your own brand is I don't know if it's an epiphany, but I know that when I made that decision, every single solitary aspect of my life was better and happier. My health got better. Like literally everything changed when I was just finally like, you know what? I don't care what people think. I'm gonna be me. And I know people are like, well, be yourself, and they say it because they're young and they just want to be stupid and say dumb things, and this is how I'm gonna be me. But no, like really, really be your own brand, and you will enjoy your whole life. So I'm giving this as advice to you too, Mr. Youngster. You'll enjoy your entire life if you just have the courage to stand up and be the person that does go against the grain.
I love that. Dwan, you are absolutely incredible today. The final thing, the final, I should say, is where can people get in touch with you, see one of your courses, learn more to level up their life, and have you be a part of it and get into your ecosystem? How can people find you? What mediums, what outlets? How can they reach out?
Everywhere. I'm on everything. So dwanderful.com, Dwanderful, DWANDERFUL. So I took my name Dwan and wonderful and I made a new word, Dwanderful. And I'm on everything, X and TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and my websites and books on Amazon. I've got a ton of books on Amazon that I've written. I've written chapters in other people's books. I'm in that book by Gary Keller, the millionaire real estate investor.
I've read that one. That's crazy. Everyone who's
I'm
been
in
in
that
real estate.
book.
Yes,
I'm in that
amazing.
book, man. Not the agent one, the investor one.
Systems. Yes,
I'm in that one. And so I'm literally, if you just type in the word wonderful, I'm everywhere.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here on this show. For everyone, reach out if you want to level up your life. Look no further than here. We'll see you next week on Fun Friday. Peace.
Peace.